It's the final round of Thundersport GB for 2017, and we have the Avon tyres, Supertwins, Stocktwins, and Aprilia RRV 450s. 3 champions already crowned. Johnny Towers, who's actually out of this final weekend with illness, sending him our best wishes. Alex Platt, winner of the Stocktwins, he's out there with the number 1, and our RV 450 champion is Alex Taylor. He's actually on a 550 now. We've got some news on the 450 Aprilias as well. We'll talk to you about that in the race in a moment. Joe Thompson is on pole position. Suzuki Trick Bits rider, of course, former Aprilia Super Team runner, GP3 runner, 125 GP. He's been running on the roads as well. He's won races this year already in this class. Dan Taylor, second on the grid, number 26, a former double champion with us. He's wrapped up third in the Super Twins Championship yesterday. Jonathan Perry just up there as well. Nice to see him out there, number 42. William Holland there, number 93, also going through. Josh Leaning, you'll see there on a Thundersport 500. Understand he's just got a few problems with his 500. He's asked if he can start and get a couple of laps in, and then I expect to see him pull out of the race in a moment, although he is technically eligible to race in this championship given the capacity of his bike. The only things to sort of wrap up really in terms of championships is third place overall in the Stocktwins. So that will be between Jason Markham, number 96, and number 2, Stephen Taylor. Those guys are 16 points. That's what they're separated by coming into today. I think I've just about wrapped most of that up. As I say, we send our best wishes over to Johnny Towers. A shame that he's had to go home ill, but hey, he's got the championship already in his back pocket. The only other thing just to note as well is that Greg Madero, former Stocktwin champion of last year, is actually back out on a Stocktwin bike, having spent most of this year in the Super Twins and of course taking second in the championship. It's Thompson that leads this race from Dan Taylor there, number 26. Alex Taylor is then in third place on the Aprilia 550, and just behind him, number 93, William Holland on his JHS Racing Suzuki Syd. News about the 450s, of course. Alex Taylor is the champion, number 9 on your screen there, third in this race. He's moved up onto a 550 since he's got this championship wrapped up, but he will be the last ever Aprilia 450 champion, and I understand there's some news on the 450s as such.
Yeah, as to where they'll go, of course, and I have to say, Alex on the 550, which is kind of its bigger brother, the 450's bigger brother. I mean, absolutely brilliant races yesterday. Got 2 seconds overall. Rode like a Trojan, he did. Yeah, obviously the 450 challenge has been a fantastic stepping stone from super teens through to 600s, if you like. I mean, that stepping stone, the RRV 450 challenge. Well, 50 of them were made. We don't know where they're all gone. Some, I think, are sitting in people's lounges in glass cases. Some are racing in other organisations. Many have been restricted because they're now allowed to be a super team bike for over 13s, restricted to half power. But I'm delighted to reveal that next year you'll still be able to ride a 450, but in the stock twin class, in competition. And Scott and Stinston Engineering are now designated at Thundersport GB as a manufacturer. They are a stock twin for next year. Now, they are arguably a touch underpowered at 64 brake horsepower. You know, a lot of the good stock twins come in at 72, but they do weigh a lot less, Steve. You know, they're a fabulous machine. So I'm delighted that there's somewhere for them still to race here in anger here at Thundersport GB. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I agree with that. The 450 since they came into Thundersport have been a revelation. I remember, of course, the inaugural year of it. Will Hodgson, the champion, of course, on the number 14 ahead of Rob McNeely, and there were a number of other bikes that we saw out in the championship, people that were turning up with all sorts of methods, and then of course Ian Newton got his hands on the 450 Supermoto Aprilia, and really it went from strength to strength, and we had a couple of barnstorming years, more than a couple in fact. Ben Gautry was the inaugural Aprilia 450 champion, if you like.
Indeed.
The late Ben Gautry, and then it went on, and there's some brilliant championships we've seen over the years. Folkard the champion, Callan Cooper, Ben Luxton, etc. There's plenty more to boot, as we just see there. Josh Leaning, as we predicted, has pulled in. So yeah, nice to see that they've got a home, and like you say, a nimble bike, a beautifully set up bike, more than capable of handling its own in a Stocktwin championship.
Well, they handle like a 250 GP machine, but obviously they've got. I mean, to ride. People tell me that they're very much like a Moto 3 bike in many ways. They've got good power delivery. They're just a great all-round, and they're beautifully built. The engineering is amazing. But it's nice, as I say, for them to have somewhere to go. And I think that you will see people who love this championship, and there's quite a lot of them, as you can see. People who are, quite happy in the Stocktwins. I can imagine people are going to go out and look for these bikes now, because they're a great thing to ride.
Well, Joey Thompson here, going well on the Trick Bits Racing Suzuki at the moment. He leads the way from Dan Taylor, who's having a bit of a late season resurgence in Thundersport GP, having had a pretty torrid time at parts at the start of the year. There you see number 96, Markham, racing with Ryan Redmond. Ryan Redmond, who's had a fantastic weekend so far here at Donington. Had he have raced like this over the last couple of rounds, he might actually be in with a shout of finishing third overall himself. As it happens, he just pulls off a move there on Markham. It doesn't look like it's going to happen now. Stephen Taylor is a bit further back than number 2, which means that he'll have a bit to do here to try and catch Jay Markham there. You just saw number 84 at the front of this group is Kenneth Thirlwall, a name that you might not be quite so familiar with. But he's out there having some fun. We've obviously got Greg Madero in the mix as well. He's just at the back of this group, the white and sky blue colours, former champion in this class. But here are your race leaders then. It is Joe Thompson from Dan Taylor, and then Alex Taylor as well. Alex Taylor, the rider that really could be worth keeping a strong eye on in 2018. Further behind these guys, William Holland has lost track of the leading group. So he's unable to find his way to the podium positions right at this moment in time. And a quick word, I suppose we should just mention Johnny Towers, Syd. I'm sure he'd have loved to have finished off the season on a high, but unfortunately he's had to go out.
I was looking forward to it as well, because he would have really taken it to Joey Thompson on this bike he's had built by Ryan Farquhar, who's here this weekend. Unbelievable machine. So looking forward to it. But yeah, he's gone and caught something as Johnny, and he's like really ill, bless him. Had to go home Friday night. He wasn't feeling that well, and then by the time he got to... But anyway, yeah, best wishes to him. Hope he gets well soon.
Mind you, he might be looking at these conditions saying that, you're welcome to it. Joe Thompson then has just seen off the threat coming from Dan Taylor in second, and Dan himself now is running into a bit of trouble with his namesake Alex just up behind him. There is Ryan Redmond. He and Greg Madero have just peeled off ahead of Jason Markham, and then it's the Beard, Neil Schofield, who of course, as we know and we mentioned to you at the last round, has secured second overall in the Stocktwins Championship.
What an immense year it's been for Neil, hasn't it? Fantastic year.
Looking forward to seeing the Barnsley crew over at the presentation in January.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll make a suitable amount of noise, Steve.
I'm sure they will. I'd be disappointed if they didn't. There is William Holland on the JHS Racing Suzuki. He's back in 4th place. Just a quick mention as well to another rider I just saw while you were talking a moment ago as well. Nice to see him back in the paddock. Wayne Bridges, number 69. I'm presuming it's the same Wayne Bridges that used to race with us on a regular basis, but it's nice to see that name appear on a time screen once more. Should also point out that in the RRV 450s, Tom Jennings, by virtue of turning up here this weekend and getting a few results over Greg Maiden, who's also out on an RRV, will actually eclipse Rhys Irwin in the RRV 450 Championship to second overall.
Wow.
So he'll take the runners-up spot this year, ahead of Rhys Irwin. And what happened to Alex Wood, Syd? He was doing well in the championship at one point. Disappeared.
Yeah, he went elsewhere, didn't he?
Not sure what happened there.
I think he went Moto 3 racing.
Oh, okay. Well, good luck to them all. So there are a few riders, as you probably see. I mean, we commentate on so many races with so many riders at Thundersport these days. It's hard to keep track on where everyone's going, especially from my part. given the fact that unfortunately I don't get to attend any of the rounds.
No, but I mean, it's also nice that they do, a lot of the riders come back and see us.
Yeah.
Even if they've moved on to British Championship or even something world level or whatever, you know, a lot of them like to come back and see us, which is lovely. And they get some good racing, which, you know, it's always remarked upon that, you know, it's fast here.
It is fast. It really is fast. You can look at these times now. Look at the circuit. It's damp. It's okay. There's a dry line, but it's not very pleasant out there. It's very cold. And these guys are only 3 seconds off the lap record. That is incredible, really, when you consider. But anyway, Joe Thompson, it looks like, has got this one wrapped up. Alex Taylor is seen off. Dan Taylor. There is Ryan Redmond up ahead of Greg Medeiros, and this is going all the way down to the finish line. Now, Jason Markham, number 96, is just behind these guys, so he would be third in the Stocktwins as it stands, with Stephen Taylor sixth in the Stocktwins. So, a quick bit of maths to work out. That would mean 6 points extra Markham would take over Stephen Taylor, which would be 24 in it going into the final race, which then in turn would mean Taylor would have to win and Markham not finish it. So victory here for Joe Thompson, though, on his TrickBit Suzuki from Alex Taylor and Dan Taylor. Alex Taylor, with this run at the end of the season, is climbing up that leaderboard in the Supertwins overall. It might be too little too late, but a really good performance from him. So that's your top three. William Holland was fourth. Ryan Redmond then wins the Stocktwin race. He was fifth overall. Greg Medeiros, last year's champion, in sixth. There you can see the top three overall: Joey Thompson, Alex Taylor and Dan Taylor nearest to us, and then in the Stocktwins, Ryan Redmond, Greg Medeiros and Jason Markham. In the Aprilia RRV 450s, Greg Maiden was the race winner from Tom Jennings, who will end the year second overall in the championship. We have got one more race to go in this series. Join us again for that finale in a couple of minutes. Time for race two. The Supertwins, Stocktwins and RRVs 450s, the last race of the 2017 season. Time to let your hair down and have some fun. Johnny Towers still at home injured. We send him our best regards. We look here at William Holland. Joe Thompson, of course, race winner earlier, number 7, looking for 4 out of 4 for the end of the weekend. There's Jonathan Perry. He didn't finish race 1. Don't know what happened there. And Dan Taylor's not even on the grid. There he is. Thumbs down. Well, at least, Dan, you've got third in the championship nailed, which I'm sure is what you set out to do when you turned up here at Donington Park for the final round of the championship. The lights go on, and away we go then. Poor start for Joe Thompson from pole position. Couple of gaps on the grid, of course, and Dan Taylor being one of those. And
he's lucky actually not to get a jump start there, is Joe.
Bit of movement on the line, wasn't there,
well,
before the lights went on though. Yeah. So I think you might be all right with that.
I think I will see. But
anyway.
yeah, but that ended up as a dreadful start for him.
Yeah, it didn't work out well at all. Number 38 there, Josh Crew, just going wrong direction into turn 1. Luckily he's upright though, which means he can continue. So
by the way, Johnny Towers not injured, tummy bug.
Sorry, did I say injured?
Yeah, and Dan Taylor there got nasty braking issues, so had to pull out of this race, unfortunately.
There's been a lot to commentate on today, so apologies to Johnny.
There's been a lot happening this weekend.
There has, yeah.
Not least of awnings flying around the paddock at fast rates of knots.
There is the beard, Neil Schofield, and if I'm out of breath, I apologise. I've just commentated on the finale of the Golden Era Supersport Championship, which went all the way to the final corner. Not really got a lot of breath left in me right now. There is Jonathan Perry, though. Good start. He leads ahead of Joe Thompson to give him something to think about in the early stages. Alex Taylor there on his 550. Then William Holland, Greg Madero here, number 60. Now, told you in race 1 about this battle for third overall in the Stocktwins Championship between number 96, Jason Markham, and of course Stephen Taylor, number 2.
Yeah, what's got to happen again? Just run that past me again,
Well,
Steve.
basically there's 24 points. If my maths are right, and they have been wrong in the past, number 96 here would have to fail to finish, and Stephen Taylor would need to win the race in the Stocktwins.
Right.
For any of that to change.
Well, I believe in your maths, Steve. I sent you to a good school that was approved.
I might be wrong, actually. As I say this, I'm getting slightly concerned about my own maths, so I might be wrong. We'll have to wait and see. It might be less than that. Who knows? We'll work it out at the end, won't we?
Yeah,
basically, what I can tell you is that Stephen Taylor has to finish ahead of Markham. As far as I'm aware, I think he'd have to win the race. I really do. I think Taylor would have to win. And
Markham
fall off.
Right, okay.
So if we see Markham going missing, that's when we can start getting the points tallies out and stuff. But Greg Madera at the moment, of course, is leading Stocktwins. He's 5th on screen. At the front, Jonathan Perry was leading, but not for long. Here comes Joe Thompson, and late on the brakes there in 3rd as well on the Aprilia was Alex Taylor. So in the early stages, they're all giving Joe Thompson something to think about. And it seems, Sid, that this is the sort of stage of a race where you have to kind of get your knuckles into Joe Thompson. Once he gets those tyres warm, he's a formidable opponent.
Well, he's a very, very good racer. Always has been, right from the early days as a super team and a GP3, GP125s, etc., etc. And he's on an excellent bike. You know, I mean, the Trick Bits Suzuki is just awesome. You know, you only had to look at the braking into Robert Chicane there, and Jono's bike was wagging around like a dog's tail at the back there, and that Suzuki was just rock solid, which allowed him to get through. You know, absolutely brilliant machine and brilliant rider.
Just saw there the 2 RRV 450s, Greg Maiden, number 111, and also Tom Jennings, 86, who's going to finish as the runner-up in this 450 championship for 2017. Jonathan Perry it is then that leads once more, but coming through is into the slipstream, Joe Thompson. He takes the outside line, but that doesn't matter, as Sid said. The bike does look on rails as he breaks into the Robert Chicane and onto the home straight. He leads then again from Jonathan Perry, who has a look over his shoulder, and with that a sign to say, well, I'm not going to be catching Joe anymore. Alex Taylor in 3rd place still, William Holland in 4th.
Fantastic. I mean, this is a good end product class in itself. I mean, you know, if you just wanted to stay and race this class forever, it's a lovely, you know, I love the way, and a lot of other people love the way these bikes develop their power. You know, they're not what you'd call intercontinental ballistic missiles. I mean, they're not slow by any chance of the imagination, but I mean, they are such a brilliant transitional class as well. And with the RRVs, as I've said before, being able to win the Stocktwins next year, hopefully we'll see a lot of them around, and it's a lovely transitional. So particularly for the super teams, if they buy like an RRV 450, have it restricted, and then they can go straight into this by having it de-restricted, not having to mess about like you normally do, having to go and find another bike. And that's always a drama. You've got to sell this one, and you know, if you've got the same machine, you're automatically on it, and you just got more power.
Yeah, the 450, the 550, the 650, they all race in the Supertwins. I think that the transitional thing that you mentioned has been underestimated. You look at, and a case in point, some of the riders that we've got racing with us here this weekend in GP1 and 600s, Tom Oliver, David Allingham, Ben Luxton, all of these guys, Brad Jones, that have moved from the 450s and have gone into 600s and have done so well. But they had that transitional
grounding. Yeah.
I'm really surprised, Sid, that 650s hasn't made a name for themselves on the British Championship.
Well, the thing is that no, I mean, I don't know the reason for that. I can't say what other organisations do. We jumped on the bandwagon about a year before they decided to do Supertwins at the Isle of Man, and to be fair, that helped us put a big nice label on the class. Mini twins we're out there, of course, and the reason we didn't stay with mini twins, went for stock twins, is because you can get aftermarket parts much cheaper, whereas with a mini twin you have to buy, you know, original spec parts, and they're much more expensive. So, other than that, they're much the same, really. You can race a mini twin in our stock twins.
I'm sure there was talk, wasn't there, of 650s being in the British Championship one year?
Yeah, they did give it a thought,
Yeah.
but it just didn't happen.
Oh, okay. Well, either way, it's a very, very good place to come and race in the 650s if you're not quite ready for a 600. And let's not forget, 600 racing ain't cheap.
No.
Although you wouldn't think it looking at the Thundersport paddock. When you see hundreds of the 600s dotted around the paddock. Either way, there's a championship for everyone here. You look down at the Super Teens, of course, which is sort of fast becoming a mixture of all sorts of machineries, much like the Supersport 300 Championship at World Superbike. Then you've got the 500s, which is obviously budget racing, but again, good starting point. Then the 650s here, and then after that, well, take your pick.
But I think it's important to have some budget racing, because it always worries me that it's, you know, going to sail down into blue yonder, into obscurity, bike racing, if we don't make it affordable at the front end, so that you can just display, if you've got talent, you can display that talent and get some people involved, some sponsorship, personal and so on.
Tom and Tim Neve, of course, the twins. As we see Joe Thompson getting a bit caught up there with the tail ender. They hail from the Supertwins and mid-twins
so
classes.
Quickly he backed out of that now, like, so professional, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You know, some people would have maybe put that on the deck, you know.
Here is Greg Madero then, stock twin champion of years gone by. He'll be on a trick fit Suzuki next year. He'll be looking to try and win this championship ahead of Johnny Towers, who I presume is going to try and defend his title. There's a problem for Ryan Redmond. That's one stock twin out of the equation. Stephen Taylor's still out there, but he's not threatening for the win right now. So as it stands, Markham would still get that third place in the championship. There is Thompson then, well ahead of the rest of the field.
You wouldn't think you'd have to battle this hard to get third in the championship, would you?
Incredible, isn't it?
In the last race of the year.
There's Alex Taylor. There's all sorts going on here. Riders getting lapped, so it's hard to pick out who is who. The 450s are in there. Jonathan Perry somewhere in the middle of that lot, just about to tip into Coppice now, currently third in this race. William Holland still fourth, Greg Madero still fifth. Then it's Kenneth Thirlwall, and then Taylor and Schofield are scrapping it out for the remaining podium places in the stock twins. Markham is up there as well with them. Here's Jonathan Perry, podium many a time at Thundersport 500 level, and also in Super Twins. And the last lap flag is out. Doesn't look like first, second or third is going to change actually here, but it will be 4 out of 4 for Joe Thompson.
You know, Alex Taylor on that Scott Racing Motorcycles Aprilia RRV 550 GP. I mean, he's only a few seconds behind. I'm really impressed with that, you know. I mean, he's given away quite a few GGs there.
Yeah, and he's going to take fifth in the championship in Super Twins, as well as winning the 450s. And let's not forget, he spent the large part of this year on the 450 as well.
Yeah, exactly.
So that is very good going for
it is
Alex Taylor, who's going to finish second again here in this race by the looks of things as well, with Perry in a solid third. Don't know what's happened on this final lap to Jason Markham, but there might be a bit of concern. Markham didn't go through the third time sector. If Taylor was to win the stock twins race, he'd have third in the championship. We'll keep an eye on that in a moment. In the background, yeah, I can see him pulling over just on the back straight there. There's an issue for him. Joe Thompson wins this race from Alex Taylor and Jonathan Perry. Luckily for Markham, who's had a problem or something on this final lap, Greg Madero has won the stock twins race, and so it means that he will hold on to third in the championship, but that could have been a bit hairy for him coming into this final race. That's it for the season then. There's your top 6 in that race. Joey Thompson the winner, middle of the podium, far side Alex Taylor, near side Jonathan Perry, and in the stock twins Greg Madero the winner from Neil Schofield, the beard, over in the far side, and then Stephen Taylor, and in the RRVs Thomas Jennings and Greg Maiden. Final point standings then for this season. Johnny Towers, the champion, ahead of Greg Maduro and Dan Taylor, who had to sit that one out. Ben Tolliday was 4th, and Alex Taylor on the RRV, brilliant stuff from him, 5th, ahead of the Stocktwins champion, Alex Platt. Behind Platt in the Stocktwins was the Beard, Neil Schofield. Jason Markham did hold on 6 points in the end, is all he managed to get 3rd over Steve Taylor with. Ryan Redmond was 5th, Joseph Thomas was in 6th, and in the RRV 450s, Alex Taylor got that sealed quite a while ago. Tom Jennings, though, is 2nd overall, Rhys Irwin 3rd, Alex Wood 4th, then Kate Fervey and Ben Ashcroft. That's it from us here in 2017. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you again next season.